Zephyrian soil again, and this time they were coming as liberators, and the space battle lasted only 4 hours, but it felt like an eternity to Alex as he watched from the Retribution's command center. Human ships moved through the hegemony, fleet like sharks through a school of fish, their advanced weapons cutting through enemy defenses with terrifying efficiency. Captain Santos's Corvette squadron danced between the massive hegemony dreadnoughts, targeting their weapon systems and engines with surgical precision. Her pilots had trained for months using combat simulations based on biocrystal data, and it showed. They knew exactly where to hit each enemy ship for maximum damage. "Target the command vessel," Admiral Blake ordered as a massive hegemony battleship tried to escape toward the edge of the system. "I want their commander alive if possible." The Retribution's main guns swiveled toward the fleeing ship. Twin railgun shots struck the battleship's engines, crippling it, but leaving the command section intact. Within minutes, human boarding parties were cutting through the hull to capture whoever was inside. Alex watched the tactical display as the last hegemony ship exploded in a ball of plasma fire. The orbital weapons platforms had been destroyed in the first wave of attacks. The mighty fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds was now nothing but debris floating in space. "All enemy vessels destroyed, Admiral," Captain Davis reported. "We have complete control of orbital space." Admiral Blake turned to Alex. "Colonel Carter, you have the honor of leading the first landing party. Take us down to where your friends died." Alex suited up in Marine combat armor and joined Colonel Webb's assault team in the dropships. As they descended toward the planet's surface, Alex could see the devastation the hegemony had caused. The beautiful crystal forests were gone, replaced by ugly industrial complexes and mining operations. Smoke and pollution filled the air where once there had been clean skies. But worst of all were the slave camps. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species were imprisoned in crude barracks, forced to work in the hegemony's mining operations. Alex recognized some of the species from the biocrystal records, survivors from other worlds the hegemony had conquered. The dropships landed near what had once been the entrance to the main Zephyrian city. Alex's heart broke as he saw what the hegemony had built there. A massive command bunker sat directly on top of the site where Elder Vashatai had died, its ugly concrete walls a deliberate insult to the memory of the gentle people who had once lived here. Colonel Webb's Marines spread out in perfect formation, their power armor making them look like metallic angels of death. The few hegemony ground troops who tried to resist were cut down within seconds. Human weapons and training were simply superior to anything the enemy could field. "This is Webb to all units," the colonel said over the communication system. "Primary objectives are the command bunker and the slave camps. Secondary objectives are the mining facilities and industrial complexes. I want everything the hegemony built on this world destroyed." Alex led a squad toward the command bunker, following routes through the underground tunnels that he remembered from his time with the Zephyrians. Many of the passages had been sealed or destroyed, but enough remained that he could navigate toward the center of the facility. They found Commander Zex Thule in what had once been the main chamber of the Zephyrian city. The Krillian officer was trying to destroy computer records when Alex and his team burst into the room. The alien commander was exactly as Alex remembered from the biocrystal recordings, a massive reptilian creature with 4 arms and eyes like burning coals. "You," Zex Thule snarled when he saw Alex. "The human who escaped. I should have killed you when I had the chance." Alex removed his helmet so the Krillian could see his face clearly. "You remember me? Good. Do you remember the Zephyrians, the peaceful people you slaughtered for the crime of showing kindness to a stranger?" Zex Thule laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Weak creatures. They died easily. Their world is much more useful now that we have removed the infestation." "Their world?" Alex's voice was deadly calm. "This isn't your world, Commander. It never was. You're just a visitor here and your welcome has expired." The Krillian reached for his weapon, but Alex was faster. A single shot from his plasma rifle took off the alien's primary right arm. Zex Thul screamed and fell to his knees, green blood pooling around him. "The Zephyrians were my friends," Alex said as he stood over the wounded commander. "They saved my life and asked for nothing in return except friendship. You killed them for that kindness." "Your species will pay for this aggression," Zex Thul gasped. "The hegemony has 1,000 worlds. They will send fleets to destroy your pathetic little planet." Alex smiled coldly. "Let them come. We'll be waiting." The final shot silenced Zex Thul forever. The creature who had ordered the genocide of an entire species was dead, killed on the same ground where his victims had fallen. Outside the bunker, Colonel Webb's Marines were methodically destroying every trace of hegemony presence on the planet. Industrial facilities exploded in balls of flame. Mining equipment was reduced to scrap metal. The ugly concrete structures that had defiled Zephyrian sacred sites were blown to pieces. But the most important work was happening at the slave camps. Human medics and engineers worked around the clock to free thousands of prisoners from dozens of different species. Many of them had been enslaved for years, forced to work in brutal conditions while their home worlds were stripped of resources. Captain Torres coordinated the relief effort from orbit. "We have over 40,000 freed prisoners from 23 different species," she reported to Admiral Blake. "Many of them are in poor health, but they'll survive with proper medical care." Alex made his way to the site where the main Zephyrian city had once stood. Human engineers were already at work, clearing away the industrial equipment and beginning restoration of the natural caverns. They had found something precious in the deepest tunnels. A small chamber that the hegemony had never discovered, containing artifacts and records that had survived the conquest. Dr. Foster met Alex at the entrance to the chamber. "Colonel, you need to see this. The Zephyrians left more than just the biocrystal. They preserved samples of their biotechnology, genetic records, even some of their art and literature." Alex entered the hidden chamber and found himself surrounded by glowing plants and crystal formations that had somehow survived 6 months of hegemony occupation. It was like stepping back in time to when Cathara and Nimjos had first shown him their underground world. In the center of the chamber was a holographic projector, similar to the one that had contained Vashatai's final message. When Alex approached, it activated automatically, filling the room with the image of a young Zephyrian female he didn't recognize. "If you are seeing this message," the hologram said, "then our people have fallen, but our friends have come to remember us. I am Yethara, daughter of Elder Vashatai. I recorded this message in our final hours, hoping that someday those who loved us would return to this place." Alex felt tears running down his cheeks. Even in their final moments, the Zephyrians had been thinking about others, trying to preserve something for future generations. "We want you to know that we do not regret our choice to help Alex Carter," the hologram continued. "We would make the same decision again because it was right. We also want you to know that our culture and knowledge will live on through the biocrystal we gave him. Use what we have learned to protect others as we tried to protect him, the Phi." Message continued for several more minutes, containing instructions for growing Zephyrian plants and maintaining their technology. It was a gift from the dead to the living, a final act of generosity from a people who had given everything. When the message ended, Alex sat in silence for a long time. Around him, the bioluminescent plants pulsed with gentle blue light, exactly as he remembered from his months living among the Zephyrians. Admiral Blake found him there an hour later. "Colonel, we're ready to begin the memorial service. The entire fleet is standing by." Alex nodded and followed her back to the surface. The memorial site had been prepared on the exact spot where the main Zephyrian city entrance had once stood. Human engineers had cleared away all traces of hegemony construction and planted new crystal formations grown from samples found in the hidden chamber. The service was broadcast to every human ship in orbit and transmitted back to Earth for the entire species to witness. Alex stood before a simple monument containing the biocrystal and spoke the words he had been practicing for months. "We gather here to remember the Zephyrians," he began, "a peaceful people who showed kindness to a stranger, who shared their knowledge freely, who protected the helpless even when it cost them everything. They died because they were good. They died because they chose to help someone in need. They died because they believed in friendship between the stars." He paused, looking up at the fleet of human warships that filled the sky above the memorial site. But their deaths were not meaningless. Today, the galaxy learned what happens to those who harm humanity's friends. Today, every species in known space received a message. Treat humans and their allies with respect or face the consequences. Admiral Blake stepped forward. "By the authority granted to me by the unified Earth government, I hereby establish." Admiral Kate Morrison stood at the large window in Luna Station's command center. She watched Earth turn slowly below her. The blue planet looked peaceful from this distance, but Kate knew better. The war was going badly, very badly. 3 years. Ago, the aliens had come. They called themselves the Hegemony. The Vorthak were tall, lizard-like creatures with sharp teeth and cold yellow eyes. Their allies, the Zephyrians, looked like giant insects with multiple arms and compound eyes that saw everything. Together, they had decided that humans needed to die. Kate turned away from the window and looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed enemy ships. Blue dots showed human ships. There were far more red dots than blue ones. Every day, more blue dots disappeared from the screen. "Ma'am, we lost the UES Defiant this morning," reported Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes. He was young, maybe 25, with brown hair and tired eyes. The war had aged everyone quickly. Kate nodded. She had expected this news. The Defiant had been defending the mining colony on Titan. Now Titan was gone, too. "How many survivors?" "None, ma'am." The ship broke apart when their main reactor exploded. Kate closed her eyes for a moment. Captain Williams had been a good officer. He had a wife and 2 children back on Earth. Had. Past tense. Everything about this war was past tense. "What about our defensive lines around Mars?" Kate asked. Ryan checked his tablet. "Holding for now, but Admiral Thompson says they can't last much longer. The enemy has too many ships. Their weapons are stronger than ours. Their shields are better." Kate walked to the central display table. It showed the entire solar system. Red arrows pointed toward Earth from all directions. The Hegemony was closing in like a trap. Captain Jake Sullivan was somewhere out there in his fighter. He had started the war leading 12 ships. Now he had 4 left. Jake was one of the best pilots in the fleet, but even he couldn't win against impossible odds. The communication system buzzed. "Admiral Morrison, this is Colonel Lisa Grant on Earth. We need to talk." Kate pressed the reply button. "Go ahead, Colonel." "Ma'am, they're bombing New Angeles again. We're evacuating the city, but we don't have enough transport ships. The civilians, there are millions of them." Kate felt a cold weight in her stomach. New Angeles was one of Earth's largest cities. 20 million people lived there. "How long do you need?" "At least 6 hours to get everyone out. But the Hegemony bombardment ships are already in position. They're waiting for something." Kate knew what they were waiting for. The aliens liked to watch humans run. They enjoyed the fear. It made them feel powerful. "Do what you can, Colonel. We'll try to buy you time." "Yes, ma'am." "Grant out." Kate stared at the display. 6 hours. She didn't have 6 hours to give. The human fleet was barely holding the line at Mars. If she pulled ships back to defend Earth, Mars would fall. If Mars fell, Earth would be surrounded. "Ma'am," Ryan said quietly, "there's something else. Dr. Nathan Cross wants to see you. He says it's urgent." Kate knew Dr. Cross. He was the head of the Special Weapons Program. For 2 years, he had been working on something called Project Nightborn. The project was so secret that even Kate didn't know all the details. She only knew it was humanity's last hope. "Send him in." Dr. Cross entered the command center a few minutes later. He was a thin man in his 50s with gray hair and thick glasses. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Admiral, it's ready," he said without introduction. Kate felt her heart skip. "The Nightborn project?" "Yes. We finished the final tests this morning. It works." Kate looked around the command center. Other officers were listening, but they didn't understand. Only Kate and a few others knew what Project Nightborn really was. "Are you sure?" Kate asked. Dr. Cross nodded. "We tested it on captured Vorthak prisoners. The effect was immediate and complete. They couldn't think, couldn't move, couldn't fight, but they were still alive." Kate had authorized those tests herself. She felt bad about using prisoners, but the war had made hard choices necessary. If this weapon could save humanity, any price was worth paying. "How long does the effect last?" Kate asked. "As long as we want it to. The field can be maintained indefinitely, or we can turn it off and they return to normal." Kate nodded slowly. This was it. This was their chance. "What do you need?" "Captain Amy Rogers. She's the only pilot qualified to operate the Nightborn. We built the ship specifically for her neural patterns." Kate knew Amy Rogers. She was young, maybe 30, with blonde hair and green eyes. More importantly, she was calm under pressure. She had once landed a damaged transport ship with 300 civilians aboard while under enemy fire. If anyone could handle this mission, it was Amy. "Where is Captain Rogers now?" "Waiting in the hangar bay, ma'am. She's been training with the Nightborn for 6 months." Kate made her decision. "Activate the project. Get the Nightborn ready for launch." Dr. Cross smiled for the first time in months. "Yes, ma'am." As Dr. Cross left, Kate turned back to the tactical display. The red dots were moving closer to Earth. Soon, very soon, they would begin the final attack. The hegemony had waited 3 years for this moment. They wanted to destroy humanity completely, but they didn't know about the Nightborn. They didn't know what humans could do when they were desperate. The aliens thought they understood warfare. They thought bigger ships and stronger weapons always won. They were about to learn they were wrong. Kate opened a communication channel to all human forces. "This is Admiral Morrison. All ships, all stations, all colonies. Prepare for Operation Nightfall. Repeat, prepare for Operation Nightfall." Operation Nightfall was the code name for the Nightborn mission. Only a few dozen people in the entire human military knew what it meant. Everyone else would have to trust that their leaders had a plan. In the hangar bay, Captain Amy Rogers was doing final checks on her ship. The UES Nightborn looked different from other human ships. It was smaller, sleeker, painted black as space itself. It had no visible weapons. Most people who saw it wondered why the military had built such a strange vessel. Amy knew why. She had trained for this mission every day for 6 months. She understood what the Nightborn could do. She also understood that if the mission failed, humanity would be extinct within days. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes approached Amy as she finished her checks. "Captain, the Admiral wants to see you before launch." Amy nodded. She walked through the hangar bay, past mechanics and technicians who were preparing other ships for what might be the last battle. None of them knew that the small black ship behind them was their real hope for survival. Kate was waiting in her private office. She looked older than her 45 years. The war had been hard on everyone, but commanders carried the heaviest burden. "Amy, are you ready for this?" Kate asked. "Yes, ma'am. The Nightborn is fully operational. All systems are green." Kate studied Amy's face. "You understand what you're being asked to do?" Amy nodded. "I'm going to end the war. The weapon you're carrying, it's unlike anything that's ever been used before. The ethical implications—" "Ma'am," Amy interrupted gently. "They're planning to kill every human being alive. All of us. Men, women, children, everyone. If this weapon can stop that, then we have to use it." Kate sighed. Amy was right, of course. When facing extinction, normal rules didn't apply. Good luck, Captain. The future of our species is in your hands. Amy saluted. I won't let you down, ma'am. As Amy returned to the hangar bay, alarms began sounding throughout Luna Station. The final hegemony assault had begun. On the tactical displays, 1,000 red dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. 1,000 enemy ships, more than, had ever been assembled in one place. Kate watched from the command center as the UES Nightborne launched silently into space. The small black ship disappeared among the stars, invisible to enemy sensors. Everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. The war that had lasted 3 years was about to end. One way or another, it would end very soon. Captain Amy Rogers sat in the pilot's seat of the UES Nightborne. The ship felt different from any other vessel she had flown. The controls responded to her thoughts as much as her hands. Dr. Cross had spent months linking the ship's systems to her brain patterns. Nightborne to Luna Station, Amy spoke into her headset. We are clear of the launch bay. Copy that, Nightborne, came Admiral Morrison's voice. You are clear to proceed with the mission. Amy looked at her small crew. Only 11 other people were aboard the Nightborne. Most human warships carried hundreds of crew members, but this ship was different. It didn't need many people because it wasn't designed to fight in any normal way. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes sat at the navigation station. He had volunteered for this mission even though no one could tell him exactly what it involved. He trusted Captain Rogers, and that was enough. Sergeant Mike Chen operated the ship's stealth systems. The Nightborne could bend space around itself, making it invisible to all known forms of detection. Mike watched his screens carefully, making sure the alien ships couldn't see them. Dr. Cross sat at a special console he had designed himself. This console controlled the Nightborne's real weapon. It wasn't a gun or missile or laser. It was something far more dangerous. Stealth field is active, Mike reported. Enemy sensors are passing right through us. Amy nodded. Through the main view screen, she could see the hegemony fleet approaching. Hundreds of massive ships moved in perfect formation toward Mars. The alien vessels were beautiful in their own way, but Amy knew they carried death for her species. The largest ships were Vorthak dreadnoughts. Each one was 3 times the size of a human battleship. Their hulls were dark green with gold markings. Rows of weapons covered their surfaces like scales on a giant snake. Mixed among the dreadnoughts were Zephyrian attack ships. These vessels looked like metallic insects with multiple wings and weapon clusters. They moved in swarms, supporting the larger Vorthak ships. My God, Ryan whispered, staring at the enemy fleet. There must be 1,000 of them. 1,043, Dr. Cross said, reading his instruments. More ships than humanity has ever faced at one time. Amy guided the Nightborne through the enemy formation. The alien ships were so close she could see individual weapon ports and sensor arrays. If the stealth field failed for even a second, they would be destroyed instantly. How's our power supply? Amy asked. The micro-singularity is stable, reported engineer Lisa Park from the engine room. We have enough energy to maintain the stealth field for 6 hours. 6 hours would be more than enough. The mission would succeed or fail in the next 30 minutes. Amy watched the tactical display. The hegemony fleet was spreading out, preparing to surround Mars. Human ships were falling back, trying to avoid being trapped. Captain Jake Sullivan's fighter squadron was somewhere in that chaos, fighting. Impossible odds. Captain, Dr. Cross said. We're approaching the optimal position. Amy checked her navigation console. They were in the exact center of the enemy fleet. Alien ships surrounded them on all sides. It was the perfect place to deploy their weapon. Dr. Cross, explain to the crew one more time what's about to happen, Amy said. Dr. Cross turned to face the other crew members. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're about to use is a consciousness disruption field. It affects the brain's ability to process complex thoughts. The aliens will remain alive, but they won't be able to think, plan, or fight. Is it permanent? Asked Ryan. No. The effect can be reversed whenever we choose, but while the field is active, they'll be completely helpless. Sergeant Chen looked worried. Sir, is this the right thing to do? Dr. Cross was quiet for a moment. Sergeant, in 3 hours, the hegemony will begin bombing Earth's cities. They plan to kill every human being alive, every man, woman, and child. If this weapon can stop that, then yes, it's the right thing to do. Amy activated the ship's communication system. All crew, prepare for weapon deployment. This is not a drill. She looked at her screens one more time. The enemy fleet stretched for thousands of kilometers, in every direction. Each ship carried hundreds or thousands of alien warriors. All of them wanted humanity dead. Dr. Cross, you may activate the field when ready. Dr. Cross placed his hands on his console. The weapon required precise timing and coordination. He had trained for this moment for 2 years. Field generator powering up, he announced. 60 seconds to activation. Amy felt the ship's engines change their rhythm. The micro-singularity at the heart of the Nightborn was feeding enormous amounts of energy into Dr. Cross's device. 30 seconds. Through the view screen, Amy could see a Vorthak dreadnought launching fighters. The small ships spread out like angry insects, ready to attack the human defenders at Mars. 10 seconds. Amy thought about her family back on Earth. Her parents lived in Chicago. Her brother was stationed on a research base near Jupiter. If this weapon failed, all of them would die. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, activation. Dr. Cross pressed the final control. A wave of energy spread out from the Nightborn in all directions. The wave was invisible, moving at the speed of light through space. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The alien ships continued moving toward Mars. Their weapons kept charging. Their fighters kept flying. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. The Vorthak dreadnoughts maintained their course, but no new orders came from their bridges. The Zephyrian attack ships stopped launching fighters. Across the entire enemy fleet, all activity ceased. My God, Ryan whispered. It worked. Amy stared at the tactical display. Every red dot representing an enemy ship had stopped moving. They weren't destroyed. They weren't exploding. They were just stopped. Dr. Cross, are they alive? Yes. But they can't think clearly anymore. Their minds are still functioning, but they can't process complex information. They can't make decisions. They can't fight. Amy opened a communication channel to Luna Station. Admiral Morrison, this is Captain Rogers. Mission accomplished. Repeat. Mission accomplished. There was a long pause before Admiral Morrison replied. Her voice sounded amazed. Captain, we're reading 0 activity from the enemy fleet. What's their status? They're neutralized, ma'am. All ships, all crews. The consciousness disruption field has affected every alien within range. Understood, Nightborn. Return to base for debriefing. But Amy wasn't ready to leave yet. She wanted to see the weapon's effects up close. Ryan, take us to that dreadnought. Ryan guided the Nightborn toward the nearest Vorthak ship. It was massive, over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But now it drifted through space like a ghost ship. Mike, scan the interior. What are you seeing? Sergeant Chen ran detailed scans of the alien vessel. Ma'am, I'm reading approximately 8,000 life signs aboard that ship. All are alive, but there's no movement, no activity at all. They're all just standing there, Dr. Cross explained. The field doesn't hurt them physically. It just disconnects their consciousness from their ability to think and act. They're aware, but they can't understand what's happening to them. Amy felt a chill. The weapon was more terrifying than any bomb or laser. It left the aliens helpless, trapped in their own minds. How long will the effect last? She asked. As long as we maintain the field. or we can turn it off and they'll return to normal within minutes. Amy made a decision. We're keeping it active, at least until Admiral Morrison decides what to do with them. She guided the Nightborn through the silent enemy fleet. Ship after ship drifted without purpose. No communications came from any of them. The greatest military force in the galaxy had been defeated without firing a single shot. "Captain," Ryan said, "we're receiving reports from across the solar system. The effect isn't limited to this fleet. Every hegemony ship and base within a light year has gone silent." Amy realized the full scope of what they had accomplished. Not just this fleet, but every enemy force in human space had been neutralized. Occupation forces on human colonies, patrol ships, supply bases, all of them had been affected simultaneously. Dr. Cross, how is that possible? The field can reach that far? The consciousness disruption field travels through subspace. It affects any hegemony species within a large area around the generator. We estimated the range would be significant, but this exceeds our projections. Amy opened another channel to Luna Station. "Admiral, this is Rogers again. The weapon's effects appear to be system-wide. All enemy forces have been neutralized." "Confirmed, Captain. We're getting reports from every human colony and outpost. The aliens have simply stopped. All of them." Amy looked at her crew. They were staring at their instruments in amazement. In less than 5 minutes, they had ended a war that had lasted 3 years. "Ma'am," Ryan said quietly, "what do we do now?" Amy thought about that question. The war was over, but what came next? Humanity now possessed a weapon that could neutralize any enemy without killing them. The implications were staggering. "Now we go home," Amy said, "and we let people much smarter than us figure out what this all means." As the Nightborn turned toward Luna Station, Amy took one last look at the enemy fleet. 1,000 ships drifted silently through space, their crews trapped in a waking dream. The war had ended not with explosions and death, but with silence. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Kate Morrison stood in the command center of Luna Station, staring at screens that showed something impossible. Every enemy ship in the solar system had gone dark. Not destroyed, not retreating, just silent. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from all sectors," Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes said. "Every hegemony vessel has stopped responding to communications. Their ships are drifting without power to engines or weapons." Kate found it hard to believe. 3 years of brutal war, and it had ended in 5 minutes. "What about life signs?" "All ships show normal life support functions. The crews are alive, but there's no movement, no activity." Captain Jake Sullivan's voice came through the communication system. "Luna Station, this is Fighter Group 7. The enemy ships out here aren't responding to anything. We flew right, past a Vorthak destroyer, and it didn't even target us." Kate pressed the reply button. "Captain Sullivan, maintain a safe distance from all enemy vessels. Do not attempt to board or engage." "Copy that, Admiral. But ma'am, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen. It's like they all just fell asleep at the same time." Kate turned to Dr. Cross, who had returned from the Nightborn mission. "Doctor, explain to me exactly what your weapon does." Dr. Cross adjusted his glasses. "The consciousness disruption field affects the neural pathways responsible for complex thought. The aliens can still breathe, their hearts still beat, but they can't process information or make decisions. They're alive but unable to think clearly. And this effect hit every enemy in the system? The field travels through subspace, Admiral. Any Vorthak or Zephyrian within approximately 1 light-year was affected. That includes not just the ships here, but also occupation forces on our colonies." Kate felt a mixture of relief and worry. Relief that humanity was safe. Worry about what they had just unleashed on the galaxy. "Colonel Grant, what's the situation on Earth?" Colonel Lisa Grant's voice came through from New Angeles. "Admiral, it's incredible down here. The hegemony soldiers just stopped moving. They're standing right where they were when the field hit. We're securing their weapons, But they're not resisting. They can't resist. Kate closed her eyes for a moment. Any sign of the effect wearing off? No, ma'am. Dr. Cross says it will continue as long as the Nightborn maintains the field. Kate made a decision. All units, begin securing enemy positions, but treat the affected aliens as prisoners, not enemies. They're helpless right now. Over the next few hours, reports came in from across human space. On Mars, hegemony occupation. Forces had simply stopped fighting. Human Marines walked into enemy bases and found Vorthak soldiers standing motionless at their posts. Their weapons lay on the ground where they had dropped them. Captain Sullivan led a team to investigate one of the larger enemy ships. The Vorthak dreadnought Blood of Conquest had been leading the assault on Mars. Now it drifted silently through space. Admiral, we're boarding the enemy flagship, Sullivan reported. The airlock systems are still functioning, but no one responded to our request to dock. Kate listened as Sullivan's team moved through the alien ship. Their reports were disturbing and fascinating at the same time. Ma'am, the crew is... It's hard to describe. They're all alive, all standing or sitting where they were when the field hit. Their eyes are open. They're breathing normally, but they don't react to us at all. Try communicating with them, Kate ordered. We tried, Admiral. We spoke to what looks like the ship's captain. He's a big Vorthak, probably 8 feet tall, standing on the bridge looking at a tactical display. But when we spoke to him, he didn't respond. He just kept staring at the screen. Dr. Cross leaned toward the communication console. Captain, try simple commands. Tell him to sit down or raise his hand. Dr. Cross says to try simple commands. Kate relayed. A few minutes later, Sullivan's voice returned. No response to simple commands either, Admiral. It's like they can see and hear us, but they can't understand what we're saying. Kate felt a chill. The weapon was more terrible than she had imagined. Captain, secure the ship, but don't harm any of the crew. They're prisoners now. Similar reports came in from across the system. Human forces were taking control of hundreds of enemy ships and installations. In every case, the alien crews offered no resistance because they couldn't. They were trapped in their own minds. On Earth, Colonel Grant was dealing with a different kind of challenge. Admiral, we have a problem down here. The affected aliens aren't eating or drinking. They're just standing there. If this continues, they'll die of dehydration in a few days. Kate hadn't thought about that. The consciousness disruption field prevented the aliens from taking care of themselves. They would slowly die unless humans helped them. Set up care stations, Colonel. Make sure they get food and water. We're not executioners. Yes, ma'am. But, Admiral, there are thousands of them just in New Angeles, caring for all the affected. Aliens across the system will require a massive effort. Kate realized they faced an unexpected responsibility. By neutralizing the enemy, humanity had become responsible for keeping them alive. Dr. Cross approached Kate with a tablet full of data. Admiral, I've been analyzing the field's effects. We can modify the output to allow basic survival functions while maintaining the inability to fight or plan. Do it, Kate ordered. These aliens are prisoners of war now. We have obligations. Under the laws of war. As Dr. Cross worked on modifying the field, reports continued to arrive from throughout the galaxy. The effect had been felt far beyond the solar system. Ambassador Helen Price contacted Kate from the diplomatic station at Proxima Centauri. Admiral, we're receiving communications from dozens of alien species. The Ethereal Council wants to speak with Earth immediately. The Crystalline Syndicate has offered a trade alliance. Even the Void Walkers are requesting a meeting. Kate wasn't surprised. The hegemony had been the dominant military power in the galaxy for centuries. Their sudden defeat would send shockwaves through every known civilization. What are they saying? Ambassador? They want to know how we did it, and they want to make sure we won't do it to them. Kate understood their fear. If humanity could neutralize the hegemony instantly, What could they do to other species? Schedule meetings with all of them, Kate decided, but make it clear that Earth is interested in peaceful relations. As night fell on Earth, Colonel Grant walked through the streets of New Angeles. Zephyrian soldiers stood motionless on street corners where they had been stationed. Human medical teams moved among them, providing water and basic care. "It's strange, Admiral," Grant reported. "Yesterday, these same aliens were trying to kill us. Now we're feeding them and making sure they don't fall down." Kate felt the weight of command pressing down on her. "Colonel, what we did today changes everything. We have a responsibility to use this power wisely." "Yes, ma'am. But I have to ask, what happens when we turn the field off? Do they just go back to trying to kill us?" It was a good question. Dr. Cross had said the effect was reversible, but would the aliens remember what happened? Would they be grateful or angry? "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it," Kate said. "For now, our priority is figuring out what kind of galaxy we want to live in." Captain Amy Rogers and the crew of the Nightborne returned to Luna Station as heroes. The small black ship that had ended the war looked no different than when it had left, but everything else had changed. "Captain Rogers," Kate said when Amy reported to the command center, "you and your crew have saved humanity. The entire species owes you a debt." Amy looked tired. "Ma'am, I keep thinking about those aliens out there. They're helpless because of what we did. It doesn't feel like a victory." Kate nodded. "It's not a traditional victory, Captain. We didn't defeat our enemies. We changed them. That comes with responsibilities we're still learning about." Dr. Cross approached with his latest report. "Admiral, I've successfully modified the field. The affected aliens can now perform basic functions like eating and drinking, but they still can't plan attacks or operate weapons." "Good work, Doctor. What about long-term effects?" "Unknown, ma'am. This technology has never been used on this scale before. We're in uncharted territory." Kate looked at the displays showing the locations of disabled enemy ships throughout the system. Hundreds of vessels containing thousands of alien crew members, all dependent on human care for survival. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kate announced to the command center, "the war is over, but our real work is just beginning. We now have the power to end any conflict without bloodshed. The question is, what do we do with that power?" As Kate spoke, messages continued to arrive from across the galaxy. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries now wanted to be their allies. Trade offers, defense pacts, and requests for meetings filled the communication channels. The galaxy had learned that humanity possessed a weapon unlike any other, a weapon that could end wars without destroying the enemy. In developing the perfect defense Earth had accidentally created, the foundation for a new kind of peace. But peace, Kate was learning, could be more complicated than war. 3 months had passed since the Nightborne ended the war. Ambassador Helen Price sat in the main conference room of Luna Station, facing delegates from 12 different alien species. The room buzzed with translated conversations as beings, who had never spoken to humans before, tried to understand Earth's new position in the galaxy. "Ambassador Price," said Counselor Viridian of the Ethereal Council, "our species has observed your capability with great interest. We wish to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." Helen looked at the tall, blue-skinned alien. 3 months ago, the Ethereal Council had refused to even acknowledge that humans existed. Now they wanted to be friends. "We appreciate your interest, Counselor. Earth is always open to peaceful relationships with other species." Seated across the table, Trade Director Zex of the Crystalline Syndicate clicked his metallic claws together. "Humans, we offer exclusive mining rights in the Vega system. Our crystals are the finest in the galaxy." Helen made notes on her tablet. Every species in the room was offering something valuable. Trade agreements, technology transfers, territorial concessions, all things they had refused to consider when humanity was weak. Admiral Kate Morrison watched the proceedings from the observation deck above the conference room. The political Situation had become incredibly complex very quickly. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes said quietly, "we're receiving another request from the Voidwalkers. They want to send a delegation." Kate nodded. The Voidwalkers were mysterious beings who lived in the empty spaces between star systems. They rarely contacted anyone, but even they wanted to talk to humanity now. "Schedule them for next week. And Ryan, make sure Captain Rogers is available for that meeting." "Yes, ma'am." "How is Captain Rogers handling all this attention?" Kate looked toward the hangar bay where the UES Nightborne was docked. "She's struggling with it. She didn't expect to become the most famous person in the galaxy." Captain Amy Rogers was indeed struggling. Every day brought requests for interviews, speaking engagements, and ceremonial appearances. She had become a symbol of humanity's new power, but she just wanted to be a pilot. Amy walked through the corridors of Luna Station, recognizing that people stared at her wherever she went. Human crew members looked at her with awe. Alien visitors pointed and whispered in their own languages. "Captain Rogers," called Dr. Nathan Cross as he approached. "Do you have a moment? I want to discuss the Nightborne's next deployment." Amy stopped walking. "Next deployment?" "Doctor, the war is over." "Yes, but we're receiving requests from other species to use the consciousness disruption technology. The Centauri Republic is having a civil war. They want us to end it peacefully." Amy felt uncomfortable with the idea. "Doctor, are we becoming the galaxy's police force?" Dr. Cross looked thoughtful. "Perhaps, but consider the alternative. Without our intervention, that civil war could last years and kill millions of people." It was a difficult question. The technology could prevent suffering, but it also gave humanity enormous power over other species. Amy left Dr. Cross and walked to the observation deck overlooking Earth. The blue planet looked the same as always, but everything else had changed. Human ships now patrolled space lanes that had been controlled by the hegemony. Earth's flag flew over alien outposts throughout the system. "Quite a view," said a voice behind her. Amy turned to see Captain Jake Sullivan approaching. His fighter squadron had been converted to escort duty for the diplomatic missions that now traveled constantly between Earth and other worlds. "Jake, do you think we did the right thing?" Amy asked. "You mean ending the war?" "Of course we did. They were going to kill every human alive." "No, I mean how we ended it. Sometimes I wonder if we just replaced one kind of tyranny with another." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Amy, 3 months ago, my daughter was hiding in a bunker while alien. Ships bombed her school. Today she's playing in the park again. Whatever moral complications we face, that little girl is alive because of what you did." Amy appreciated Jake's perspective, but she still felt troubled by the power humanity now wielded. Down in the medical bay, Dr. Sarah Kim was working with a very different kind of problem. Several dozen Vorthak and Zephyrian prisoners had been brought to Luna Station for study. The consciousness disruption field had been modified to allow them basic functions, but they remained largely unresponsive. "Dr. Kim," called Nurse Jennifer Lopez, "the Vorthak captain is showing some improvement." Dr. Kim approached the bed where a large, lizard-like alien lay staring at the ceiling. His name was Commander Thek, and he had been the captain of a hegemony destroyer. "Commander Thek," Dr. Kim said slowly. "Can you understand me?" The alien's yellow eyes moved to focus on her face. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "We're going to try something new today," Dr. Kim explained. "Dr. Cross has developed a way to partially reverse the field's effects. You should be able to think more clearly, but you won't be able to plan attacks or violence." Dr. Kim activated a small device that created a localized disruption in the consciousness field. Commander Thek blinked several times, then slowly sat up in his bed. Where am I?" he asked in heavily accented English. "You're on Luna Station. You've been here for 3 months. Do you remember what happened?" Commander Thek looked confused. "The battle. We were attacking the human fleet, then nothing. Emptiness, like trying to think through thick fog. The humans used a new weapon. It affected your ability to think clearly. Commander Thek stared at Dr. Kim. A weapon that attacks the mind? Yes. But it doesn't cause permanent damage. Your thinking should be mostly normal now, except for violent impulses. Commander Thek tried to stand, but his legs were weak after months of inactivity. Why are you helping me? We came to destroy your species. Dr. Kim helped steady the alien. Because that's what humans do. We help those who need help, even former enemies. This conversation was being recorded and transmitted to Admiral Morrison's office. Kate listened carefully to every word. This was their first real communication with an affected hegemony officer. Dr. Kim, Kate said through the communication system. Ask him about the hegemony's plans. What was their long-term strategy? Dr. Kim relayed the question. Commander Thek looked troubled. The High Command, they wanted to eliminate humanity completely. They saw your species as a threat to galactic order. Why? Dr. Kim asked. Humans adapt too quickly. You learn too fast. The Council of Species feared that given time, humanity would become dominant. They decided it was better to destroy you while you were still weak. Kate felt a chill. The aliens hadn't attacked humanity because of resources or territory. They had attacked because they were afraid of human potential. The communication system buzzed. Admiral Morrison, came Colonel Grant's voice from Earth. We have a situation developing in the Australian sector. What kind of situation, Colonel? A group of affected Zephyrians broke free from the consciousness field. They're not violent, but they're demanding to return to their home world. Kate frowned. How did they break free? Unknown, ma'am. Dr. Cross is analyzing the data now. This was concerning news. If some aliens could resist or overcome the field's effects, the entire foundation of Earth's new security could be threatened. Admiral Morrison called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. Captain Rogers, Dr. Cross, and senior staff gathered around the table. Ladies and gentlemen, Kate began, we may have a problem. Some of the affected aliens are regaining their mental functions. Dr. Cross looked worried. That shouldn't be possible. The field is designed to be completely effective. Could they be adapting to it somehow? Asked Amy. Unknown. I need to examine the affected individuals immediately. Captain Sullivan raised his hand. Admiral, what if this is intentional? What if some aliens were designed to resist mental attacks? It was a disturbing possibility. If the hegemony had created soldiers immune to the consciousness disruption field, humanity's advantage could disappear quickly. Dr. Cross, how quickly can you analyze this situation? Kate asked. Give me 24 hours, Admiral. I'll know what we're dealing with. As the meeting ended, Amy remained behind to speak privately with Admiral Morrison. Ma'am, there's something else we need to consider. If word gets out that the field isn't completely effective, every species in the galaxy will want to develop countermeasures. Kate nodded grimly. Which is why this information stays classified for now. We need to understand what we're dealing with before anyone else learns about it. Amy looked at the tactical displays showing human ships spread throughout the solar system. Admiral, are we prepared for the possibility that our advantage might be temporary? Captain, we've been preparing for that since day one. The Nightborn technology gives us time to build a better relationship with the galaxy. If we use that time wisely, we won't need the weapon to keep us safe. Amy hoped Admiral Morrison was right. But as she walked back toward the Nightborn's hangar, she couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were just beginning. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's new weapon. But weapons, no matter how powerful, were only as strong as the people who wielded them. And humans, Amy knew, were far from perfect.